of his district out there that didn't agree with him
vote for him
4 years ago, and I can't see that he's done anything on where he's at now on the supervisors to really gain more support in that district at all.
And I think he's gotten kind of a reputation now for being contentious,
difficult to work
my
with,
way or the highway kind of a guy,
difficult
and
to work
will
with,
not, will not even try to come to consensus on things on the board. So I think he's got that reputation now, and I think Carrie Brown, I think. I've heard people say that they think that she's going to be sort of a Jim Eddy, in the mold of a Jim Eddy, who is Mike Delbar's father-in-law, who was a much respected supervisor for years from Potter Valley.
He was.
And I've heard people say, they think Carrie will be that kind of supervisor, someone who is clearly going to be conservative, but also very concerned about ag, and will be thoughtful and surprise you on some votes where she thinks there's a reasonable chance, not a knee-jerk kind of supervisor. So,
but she's a Democrat.
Well, they're on supervisors, no such thing,
But I just wanted to point that out because you said she's going to be conservative, but
I think in a lot of ways she will. I mean, because she's from the ag community, and she is. I mean, I think she will be. For instance, on land use issues and things like that, I think she will turn out to be somewhat conservative
on some of those.
Yeah, on some of those.
And then the coast race, I have to tell you.
I'm not as close to that race.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know that Paula has the broad base that Kendall does, but then I think that I hear scuttle on the coast too. Of course, that you have to be right in Fort Bragg to get the heart of it all, because Mendocino is not in her district. Mendocino's in the 5th district, so the biggest populace would be the Fort Bragg area,
city.
Right? And she's done a lot for the coast. She's brought the supervisors' meetings to the coast at least once or twice since she's been there.
Especially when they're raising their salary.
Right. She's done that, and she's pushed some really good things forward for the Board of Supervisors. She worked on diversity training for the employees to try to get a broad-based policy around it. That was after the whole Michael Delbar blow up and the internal emails that were going on and some of the things that were said. She's been working lately to get the agendas up to speed online and getting the staff reports and stuff. I know I've complained about that extensively, being out in the hills and trying to stay on top of what's going on. It's really hard. And here you've got the city of Ukiah that's already up to speed and doing it. It's crazy. Our information services for the county is really behind the times, something terribly. Marcia Wharf tried to bring it up to speed with the candidates and the financing and a lot of the online, accessibility to things. And I think Kendall pushed a lot of that. So she's done a lot of structural stuff. Now, whether that's going to register with the electorate, I don't know.
Don't forget, we just had a grand jury come out and say they think that she owes the county over $3,000 in travel funds for basically lying on her mileage forms.
That's true.
Which I think is serious, frankly. I mean, we knew about that last year, but it wasn't until the grand jury came out and said, she was claiming mileage for going back to Fort Bragg at night when she was staying in the city of Ukiah for free. So I think that's going to hurt her a little bit. I think for people who are really concerned about the salary, she was really pushing that a lot. So, I mean, for those people who feel strongly about that, I think that's going to be an issue for her. I don't know Paula as well. I think Kendall will probably win that race simply because she's a much better known name.
She is a known name.
And I have not heard, Paula, I don't think is really out there getting after Kendall. I think, Paula is running her own kind of race, and she's telling people what she thinks, but she's not going around saying, and don't forget she's the one that did this, that, or the other. So I think just name recognition alone, Kendall probably has a good chance of being reelected there.
And I'm not sure about, I know I've been reading about this whole travel expenses, and I know that the DA didn't go after her because they didn't feel they could do it because of intent, the whole idea of whether it was an intentional thing. But I do think that it brings up the whole issue of the whole record keeping. The last report I read said that the board of the clerk had not been getting and filing the paperwork since like 1999. I think I actually read it in your paper.
The paperwork for travel expenses.
For travel expenses and lodging. And
well, I think a lot of it was just sort of,
yeah, the documentation.
Here's what you owe me, and nobody was looking for receipts. Or,
And it looks like the documentation stopped back in 1999. So, across the board, there's some internal paperwork that's got to be cleared up, whether it's Kendall, whether it's David, whether it's John Pinch's, Of course, the the first and the second district don't have that much travel because they're right in the area, but you're going to get it. It's going to show up. Lack of documentation paperwork is going to show up in your more outlining areas because that's the ones that are using it.
And although I don't think this is a defense for Kendall Smith, but what she has said, which I'm sure is very true, is that supervisors have been doing it that way for years. They spend the night in Kaya, but they claim the mileage just as a way of sort of compensating themselves. I don't think it's right to do it, just because it's been done. Yeah. But she has said, hey, this is the way it's been done, and so I was kind of taught that, well, just go ahead and put it in, and so I mean, to that extent, she was just doing what people have been doing. Although I still think at some point you say, well,
the policy's bad. It's a bad policy, and it takes me back. Remember when they were having the county cars? They were being used by various people. Wasn't that about 5 years ago? There was this whole blow up that people were just taking cars whenever they wanted and taking them home and taking them on personal use, and they really cut back and tracked it. I think there's a lot of that internally with the county. That's just the way it's been done for years, and nobody's stepping back and going, but wait a minute, where's the documentation? And it's the transparency of all of the government in Mendocino County,
Talking about government in Mendocino County, in terms of these races here, I mean, you're obviously going to have somebody new in the second district.
Yes.
You may end up with Mike Delbar back. You may end up with Kendall back. So, to what extent